Feel the cool air enter your nostrils. Notice the subtle rise and fall of your chest, a quiet rhythm beneath the noise of the world. There is a weight to your body, a simple, undeniable fact of presence in this chair, on this earth. This raw sensation is the bedrock of your experience, the anchor in the ceaseless river of thought. And in this river, a single persistent idea floats, the idea of I. Who is this I that thinks, that feels, that remembers? You believe you know it. It has a name, a history, a collection of preferences and wounds. It is a story you tell yourself, a character you have learned to perform with flawless consistency. Yet, if you listen underneath the familiar cadence of that internal narrator, there is a profound silence. A vast, open space that is not born of this story and will not die with it. This character you inhabit, so solid and real, is it truly the whole of you? Or is it a beautifully crafted vessel, floating on an ocean of consciousness it has forgotten it belongs to? We stand at the edge of that ocean now. The invitation is not to answer the question with more thoughts, but to feel its unnerving truth in the marrow of your bones, to take a single step off the well-trodden land of who you think you are, and into the boundless deep of what you might discover yourself to be. There was a time before the story began, a period of pure, undifferentiated being. A small child does not possess a rigid sense of self. It is an open aperture of awareness, a field of raw perception. It feels the warmth of the sun, the sting of a scraped knee, the resonant vibration of a mother's lullaby, all without a complex narrative of, I am feeling this. The world flows through it, and it flows through the world. But this state of porous innocence cannot last. The world demands a shape, a name, a set of predictable behaviors. Survival itself depends on it. Consider a young boy at a sprawling family dinner. The air is thick with unspoken tensions, a tapestry of old resentments and fragile pieces woven between the adults. The boy feels a surge of boisterous, chaotic joy and wants to shout, to run, to climb on the furniture. He makes a move, and a sharp glance from his father, as quick and cold as ice, stops him dead. The glance says, that is not welcome here. That part of you is wrong. In that moment, a decision is made not consciously, but in the deep, instinctual strata of his developing psyche. The boisterous, joyful energy is deemed dangerous. It is cleaved off, pushed down into the cellar of his being, and a new, more acceptable self is presented in its place, the quiet, well-behaved child. This is the first stitch in the intricate embroidery of the persona. It is not an act of deception, but an act of adaptation, a desperate and brilliant strategy to secure love and belonging. Over years, this process repeats itself thousands of times. The sensitivity that feels the world too deeply is walled off. The anger that protests injustice is silenced. The vulnerability that fears rejection is armored. Each social transaction, each parental approval, each peer's judgment acts as a hammer and anvil, forging the social mask. A young woman learns that her intellectual brilliance makes others uncomfortable, so she learns to dim her own light, playing a softer, less intimidating role to be more easily accepted. She becomes the agreeable listener, the nurturer, her sharp mind a secret she keeps even from herself. This fabrication becomes a fortress, protecting the soft, vulnerable core from the harshness of the world. We build its walls so high and so thick that eventually, we forget we are living inside a construction of our own making. The gatekeeper forgets there is a world outside the gates. The character you play becomes the only reality you know, its script handed down through generations, its lines recited until the actor and the role are indistinguishable. You are no longer a being having an experience. You are an identity, a collection of carefully curated traits, a brand. And the unlived parts of you, the rejected energies, they do not simply vanish. They are exiled to the shadowlands of the unconscious, waiting. They are the unseen foundation upon which the gleaming edifice of the ego is built, and like any neglected foundation, it is destined to crack. The weight of this performance is immense, a secret burden carried in the sinews and nerves. It manifests not as a clear and present danger, but as a low-grade, pervasive exhaustion. A feeling of running a marathon every single day, even when you have been sitting still. There is a persistent, hum-like anxiety that follows you into every room, the subtle, constant fear of being found out. The imposter, the fraud. You might be the pillar of your community, the successful professional, the devoted parent, the very picture of stability, yet in the quiet moments before sleep, a hollow echo reverberates through your inner world. A profound sense of disconnection, of watching your own life from a great distance. This is the psychic cost of maintaining the facade, the immense energetic toll of suppressing the totality of who you are. The body, in its profound wisdom, keeps the score. It begins to protest. It sends up flares in the form of symptoms that defy simple medical explanation. The chronic tension in the shoulders, as if bracing for a blow that never comes. The shallow breathing that never quite fills the lungs. The knot in the stomach that clenches in anticipation of judgment. A man, praised for his unshakable calm and rationality, begins to suffer from debilitating migraines. His body is screaming the rage his persona will not permit him to feel, the fury of a lifetime of self-betrayal. These are not malfunctions. They are messages from the deep, distress signals from the parts of you that have been starved of light and air. The constructed self, which once served as a brilliant survival tool, has now become a prison. Its walls, once protective, are now constricting. The very armor that kept you safe is now suffocating the life within. You try to silence the discomfort. You might seek refuge in work, in ambition, in the relentless pursuit of more money, more status, more validation. You might numb it with substances, with endless entertainment, with the curated perfection of a digital life. But these are temporary salves on a wound that goes to the very core of your identity. The strategies that built the ego cannot dismantle it. The cracks in the dam begin to widen. Unexplained bouts of melancholy wash over you on a perfectly sunny day. A sudden, terrifying surge of anger erupts in response to a minor frustration, shocking you with its intensity. You find yourself weeping without knowing why. These are the ghosts of your unlived life, rattling their chains, demanding to be seen. And from this growing chaos, from the wreckage of your carefully managed reality, a single, terrifying, and liberating question begins to form. It rises from the depths not as a philosophical curiosity, but as an existential scream. If I am not this collection of thoughts, not this history of achievements and failures, not this body and not this name, then what am I? The ground gives way. The performance has become unbearable, and the moment is arriving where you must either reinforce the prison walls or dare to face what lies in the cellar. This is not a crisis to be managed or a problem to be solved. It is an initiation. The carefully constructed world is beginning to tremble, not because you are failing, but because you are, at long last, beginning to awaken to a truth more vast and terrifying than the character you have been playing could ever comprehend. The suffering is the grace, the symptom is the guide, and the breakdown is the beginning of a breakthrough into a reality you had forgotten was possible. The descent is not a choice. It is a surrender. The dam of repression, strained for decades, finally bursts, and you are plunged into the turbulent, chaotic waters of everything you have ever denied. This is the encounter with the shadow. It is not a neat, intellectual exercise of listing your faults. It is a visceral, somatic, and often terrifying confrontation with the living, breathing energies you deemed monstrous and unacceptable. The therapeutic community often speaks of shadow work as a kind of psychic housekeeping, a tidying up of the basement. This is a profound and dangerous understatement. What therapists often don't tell you is that you are not going into the cellar with a flashlight and a broom. You are being dragged into the abyss, and the abyss is looking back with your own eyes. You will meet your own greed, not as a concept, but as a ravenous, gnawing hunger that feels as if it could consume the world. You will encounter your own rage, not as a momentary irritation, but as a volcanic, homicidal force that could burn cities to the ground. You will be forced to sit with a shame so profound it feels like a black hole, a psychic density that convinces you of your own utter worthlessness. A highly respected humanitarian, known for her boundless compassion, finds herself consumed by dreams of envy and spite. She is horrified. In her waking life, she judges these qualities harshly in others. Now she is forced to recognize this seething resentment as her own, the disowned ambition of a part of her that secretly yearns for recognition and power. This is the true trap of sanitized self-help. The belief that the shadow is something to be fixed or healed by the ego. The ego is the very mechanism that created the shadow in the first place by judging and exiling these parts. The ego cannot be the surgeon for the wound it inflicted. The process is not about making the darkness palatable to the light. It is about standing in the heart of the fire until you realize you are the fire. You must witness, without flinching, your own capacity for cruelty, your own cowardice, your own duplicity. You see the manipulator within, the saboteur, the glutton, the inner tyrant who has been projecting its own nature onto others your entire life. The shock is not that these things exist. The shock is the gut-wrenching recognition. This too is me. This is not an intruder. This is my own forsaken face. In this terrifying descent, a profound paradox begins to reveal itself. Within these monstrous energies, you discover an immense, squandered vitality. The unbridled rage, once you stop fearing it and truly feel its raw power, is also the energy of unwavering boundaries, the fuel to say no with the force of a mountain. The deep, grasping greed is connected to a profound life force, an insatiable appetite for experience that has been starved. The paralyzing shame, when met with compassion, becomes the very wellspring of empathy, the capacity to understand the suffering of others because you have finally dared to face your own. The monster you were taught to fear was never the enemy. It was a guardian, a chained and neglected deity holding the keys to your own liberation. It was guarding the treasure of your wholeness. The integration is not about taming the beast or making it respectable. It is about taking back the throne. It is about realizing that you are the sovereign of this entire complex inner kingdom, the light and the dark, the saint and the sinner, the hero and the tyrant. The only way out is through, and the path through leads directly into the heart of what you fear most, for it is only there, in that radical, unflinching self-acceptance, that the chains fall away and the exiled God can finally come home. The culmination of this ferocious encounter is not a victory, but a release, a profound letting go. Having stared into the abyss of your own totality, having witnessed the monster and the saint within as equal aspects of a single consciousness, the thing that was holding it all together, the small, frightened, controlling I, begins to dissolve. Its job is done. The gatekeeper, having thrown open the gates, has no further purpose. This is the dissolution of the ego identity. It is not annihilation. It is an expansion. The armor melts away. The mask turns to dust. The character you have played for a lifetime walks off the stage, and for a terrifying, liberating moment, you are left with nothing. An immense, silent emptiness. This void is not the desolate emptiness of loss, but the fertile emptiness of pure potentiality. It is the canvas before the painting, the silence from which all sound is born. It is the vast, open sky of awareness which was always present, but was obscured by the clouds of personality and story. In this spaciousness, the world is reborn. You feel the breath move through your body, not as my breath, but simply as the universe breathing itself. The tightness in your chest unravels. The world, once seen through the distorted lens of the ego's needs and fears, is now perceived with a startling, pristine clarity. The vibrant green of a leaf, the intricate pattern of a spider's web, the sound of rain on a window pane, it all rushes in, unfiltered, immediate, and breathtakingly alive. There is a sense of coming home to a place you never actually left. The rigid separation between self and other, between me and the world, softens and becomes porous. The integration of the shadow happens not as a mental exercise, but as an embodied reality. The rage is still there as a potential, but it no longer owns you. It is simply a color in the vast spectrum of your being, a tool to be used with wisdom. The vulnerability is no longer a weakness to be hidden, but a source of profound connection and strength. You can wear the persona, the social mask, when the situation calls for it. You can perform your role at work, navigate social complexities, but with a crucial difference. You no longer believe that you are the mask. You are the awareness that is wearing the mask. It is a costume, no longer a cage. This is authentic awakening. It is not a permanent state of bliss or a detachment from the pains of human existence. It is the capacity to be fully present with the totality of life, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the horror, without being destroyed by it. It is living from a center of unshakable peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. The river of your individual life, with all its unique twists and turns, finally recognizes that it is, and always has been, part of the great, boundless ocean of existence. The wave understands it as the water. The journey does not end. In fact, it has only just begun. But now you walk not as a fragmented, fearful character, but as a whole and integrated being, a conscious expression of life itself, finally free to experience the world not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived.